So let's now move to the first panel discussion of the day. The panel is entitled, "Where is the Spanish talent?" And to answer this question, we have with us some of the most qualified speakers, which I shall now introduce in turn. First in the panel to my right is Diego Comín. Mr. Comín is a professor of economics at Dartmouth College, a research fellow at the Center of Economic Policy Research, and a faculty research fellow at the Economic Fluctuations and Growth Program of the National Bureau of Economic Research. He holds a degree in economics from Universidad Pompeu Fabra and a master and a PhD in economics from Harvard. Next to his right is Niro García Manchado. Mr. García is a Spanish entrepreneur and a CEO of the Crambo and Retiker companies in the technology sector. He holds a Master on Innovation Knowledge Management from Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. Next to him is Fernando Fernández Monge. Mr. Fernández Monge is a governance specialist at the World Bank, where he focuses on legal and public sector reforms in developing countries. He holds a double degree in Law and Political Science from Universidad Autónoma de Madrid and a Master in Public Policy from UNED and the Institute of Fiscal Studies. To his right is Alberto López San Miguel. Mr. López is the Executive Director of the Fulbright Commission for Cultural, Educational and Scientific Exchange between the United States of America and Spain. Before that, he worked as the Chief of Staff to the Vice President of the Spanish Institute for Foreign Trade, ICEX. He holds a Master in International Relations from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts and is currently the President of the Fletcher Club of Spain. And last but not least is Elvis García, Harvard Spain officer, who will be moderating this panel. For the last 10 years, Elvis has been working with international organization Doctors Without Borders, both in its headquarters and doing fieldwork in Africa, Asia and America. He holds a degree in industrial engineering, a master in advanced techniques in architecture, an MBA, and is currently an MPH and doctoral candidate at the Harvard School of Public Health. Elvis, I leave it to you.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. This presentation has been actually quite long, almost the same as the talk is going to be. Hopefully it's going to be short. I was yesterday going through this talent concept. As all of you see, the title of this panel is "Where is the Spanish talent?" So going through that, I was trying to think about Spanish talent. And I started in my region in Asturias. Where is this talent? I was thinking about famous people from my region. We have Fernando Alonso, Princesa Leticia, and Melendi. But they're not the only famous people. We have also a Nobel Prize, Severo Ochoa, that actually spent part of the career outside of Spain. But I was thinking also that there are also people like Picasso, like Dalí, like Lorca. What they all have in common is that they have actually spent part of their careers overseas. So this kind of talent movement is not something new. It happened always. And so why now is such a big deal? And I think we have to contextualize. We have to understand that Spain passed through, in these last 10 years, we passed through this economic boom to the crisis with unprecedented figures of non-employment. And this may have led to try to point out why this failed. And one of the indicators maybe is this brain drain. Brain drain is used also as a pejorative indicator, mainly because it has this political leverage, can be used as a tool. So that's why we don't have actually real figures, like Almunia was saying before. It's difficult to really know how many people has left our country, how many qualified people is leaving because they don't have options. Figures goes from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. So it's quite difficult to define what is going on. But what is a fact is that Spain has a negative balance in talent. It means more people is leaving than people is coming to Spain. And there is a poll from ADECO from last year saying that Spain, despite being the 10th economy of the world, is the 36th country in attraction and retention of talent. How is this possible? Well, I guess things are not done as well as they could. So, to discuss about all these things, what is going on in Spain, we have all these panelists that acknowledging that they are not experts in talent itself, but they have different experience from different fields that will be useful for us. And we have from the private sector, from academic, from international organizations, and I would like to have engaged in a conversation that will be useful for us. And also, I would like the audience to integrate, to be engaged into that. So, first of all, let's start with one simple question. You have been given some clickers. Let's try if it works. Oh, let me see. There is a conceptual issue now. Yeah, I have to click to go through a lot of this. Okay, sorry for all of you watching this. You're gonna watch it later again, so don't be
spoiler.
Yeah, it's kind of a spoiler. Well, so yeah, I would like to ask you a question. Do you believe you have talent? Well, yeah, please go, A or B. Okay, it's like 45 people answer, 47, 48. All of you? Okay, let's see what surprising.
I thought it was going to be higher.
Yeah, I guess there are 8 people that are not from Harvard. Okay, so after seeing this, it's not a surprising answer. I guess all people here has talent, or only people who comes here has talent. Okay, let's go through all this. So please, let's give the word to our invited guest. Please, Alberto, we'll go through just a short presentation from each of you and the contact that you have with talent.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Alberto. I guess, well, first of all, thanks Harvard, Spain, and Real Colegio Complutense for inviting me to this amazing opportunity in front of so talented people. I guess I'm invited because I'm running the Fulbright program in Spain, and Fulbright is about mobility of talent. Fulbright program has been moving talent since 1946. It was a senator from Arkansas that after the World War II thought that the best way to avoid conflicts was to put in contact people from different countries so they could understand different cultures and then avoid future conflicts. And the Fulbright program started that way. And since then, and it's now 70 years, the Fulbright program has been granting more than 350,000 people to and from the United States to different countries. In Spain, we have been giving grants to nearly 8,000 people, roughly 5,000 Spaniards going to the US, and about 3,000 Americans coming to Spain. I have my small database that tells me that from the 5,000 students and researchers that we've sent over the 60 years that the Spanish Commission has been working, around 1 out of 10 are working abroad. That is a very small database, and it's probably much more than the average data or figures that we can look at. And so we are talking at no more than 500 Fulbrighters that are working abroad, Spain. Among them, like 250 are working at the United States. As it has been said before by Joaquin Almunia, figures, quantitative figures are very difficult to obtain. I mean, they are not difficult to obtain, but you get very different numbers, so they are not reliable for different facts. But I was interested in giving like three surveys, focus on three surveys I found that are relevant to this conference. First of all is the ADECO study that you have already mentioned. Spain ranks there 36 among 109 countries, but that rank is composed of 81 different variables. And there are two variables that are really explicit. One is brain drain, and the other is brain gain. So brain gain meaning capacity of the country to attract talent, and brain drain, the capacity of the country not to give the talent out, right? And Spain, the ranking in Spain, those specific variables is 74 and 83 out of 109. So very poor, very poor. There's another survey. I have a slide. If can you? Yeah. There's another slide. Another survey. This is made up of 17,000 interviews to scientists, and this is funny because what it shows is that researchers and scientists in Spain want and come back to Spain. They do come back. This is from 2011, I think. And what is also interesting is to know that countries like United Kingdom or Germany don't behave the same way. So there are a lot of scientists that leave the country and don't return. And that can make us think that moving abroad and even staying abroad is not such or so bad as some people want us to think. So all have negative and positive aspects. This survey also tells us that Spain is very poor in mobility terms, in magnitude. Spain is, I mean, Japan, Spain, some other countries are very, very low in terms of scientists going out and foreign researchers coming into Spain. Contrary to United Kingdom, Germany, USA, that are countries that accept and send a lot more scientists than Spain. And the last survey, this is made by Scopus. Scopus is a database that it's a peer review database. And what these people have done is they see the publishing affiliation of a researcher when they produce a paper, and they compare it with other papers he or she did in the past. So they can tell the mobility of their researchers during the time. And it's funny, or it's interesting for me to see that if you see the graph there, Spain is in the middle, and Spain had a net inflow of scientists in the period 2004 to 2008, and that has been reversed in 2009 to 2013. So we are basically leveled. I don't know what's happening in 2014, 2015, maybe you can comment afterwards. But it's also interesting to know other countries, what is happening to them. For instance, United Kingdom is a net outflower of scientists. On the contrary, United States is a net inflower of scientists. So, Elvis, I can leave it
perfect
like that. And
we'll have time for more.
We can talk further.
Okay, Fernando,
Okay.
now coming from DC, tell us your experience and
Okay.
relationship with talent.
Sure. So first of all, I also want to thank Harvard Spain for organizing this timely conference, but also for inviting us. And I say us because we are three co-organizers of the institution that I'm going to talk about a little bit more, Spanish Global Professionals Network. Idoia Ortiz D'Artignano, who's working at the Inter-American Development Bank and sitting there, and also Manuel Muñiz, who is a professor here at Harvard and who will talk later in the afternoon. My experience with talent. Well, I'm gonna, since Joaquin Almunia is here, he's from Bilbao. I think, I don't know if you will agree, but we have as Athletic, the Bilbao followers, we have a clear understanding of what is the impact of the need of nurturing local talent and what happens if you don't have local talent in terms of titles. So I think we have that kind of experience, very third-hand experience. I also, I had some. I also think that the figures are very confusing, but I also had some figures. I don't know if I'm gonna present them because a lot of what I was going to say has already been said. I think it's important to very briefly to distinguish between the people that are forced to leave the country, Spain in this case, for economic reasons and for unemployment, and then the other group. And that's a drama, and I think, as you said at the beginning, we have to be careful, and because this is a personal and professional drama, and also a loss for the country in human capital terms. But there's the other group, highly skilled professionals that are living abroad for looking for other opportunities to study or work in leading institutions such as Harvard. And I think I wanted to focus a little bit on that group, and in that sense, some of the figures that I looked at, a little bit to give a more positive perspective on this phenomenon, is that, for example, if we look at, and maybe we can put it very, very quickly, Yadus, please. If we look at the immigration rate among university graduates, and this is OECD, so we hope they have a little bit better data than others. The percentage compared to other neighbors in Europe, the percentage of Spanish graduates that leave the country is still lower. I also had another graph, but Alberto already mentioned that study, so at least we are also looking at the same figures, but also, as he said, the percentage of researchers, Spanish researchers that are leaving the country is still lower compared to other European countries. With this, what I wanted to basically say is that yes, there is an outflow of highly skilled professionals, but my sense is that we can at least point out that maybe we are catching up or converging with other countries still. So this can be a positive thing. This can be a positive thing and a better integration of the talent in the global economy for other reasons that were also mentioned. First is the importance of talent in the knowledge economy, and that's very important. And the second one was the connectivity that didn't happen in other previous moments in history with immigration, and that rupture between the diaspora and the home country doesn't happen. And I wanted to illustrate this very briefly with an example, and then talk very briefly about our organization, which is trying to transform this phenomenon into an opportunity. The example that I wanted to talk about is India. India in the 90s had a great movement of professionals in the IT sector to the US, in particular Silicon Valley. In the 90s, the number of Indians in the US doubled from 500,000 to 1 million. And at the beginning, this was seen with a lot of concern in India. In the media, they were even called as traitors. But then later, after some time, the press and some academicians have studied a little bit more thoroughly this phenomenon, and they have concluded, or at least some of them, that actually the diaspora has played a key role in putting India at the center of the global IT scene. And the mechanisms through which this has played out very, very quickly, because I see Yavis is already looking at me, but it has been know-how transfer, so Indians returning, also Indians facilitating the hiring of Indians in the US, facilitating the hiring of Indians to US companies, and also, and very interestingly, the creation of institutions and networks such as the National Association of Service and Software Companies that lobbied for venture capital regulation, for example, which fostered the investment on IT industries in India. So this brings me to the kind of the organization that we are creating, which precisely is I think we can talk about the government, we can talk about the policies, but I think it's important also to think about the civil society and the entrepreneurial initiatives that we can create to try to bridge this gap. And we try to do this with a very particular community, that is the Spanish professionals working in international organizations. These are people that left the country voluntarily, very high skilled in general, but also for some reason or I can include myself in this community, we get very quickly disconnected from Spain. So we saw that phenomenon on the one hand, and on the other hand, due to the crisis, but other reasons as well, Spanish institutions, public, private and academic institutions, they were looking to engage with international opportunities, and they were looking at the Spanish talent and to see opportunities, professional, business, etc. So we created this organization that has 100 members already. We started in the US, but we already have members in the Asian Development Bank, in Europe, in the EBRD, the European Bank Reconstruction and Development, OECD, etc. And we're trying to link them through different activities. For example, with the public sector is very difficult, and we know, and some of the challenges have been mentioned here, but we're trying to put together groups of professionals in the administration and professionals in international organizations in fora to discuss, to conduct publications together. We are creating one on innovation in the public sector, focusing on big data and the applications that has for the administration. And also with another sector that we're working a lot is the academia, and this is my last point. But I think it's interesting to see the kind of dynamics that you can create through these institutions. We're trying to bring these professionals to executive education, to advanced seminars, even as faculty members, to at least to try to provide or to bring that practitioner perspective that Joaquin Almunia was also talking about, that we see in the US universities. We see more appetite, or at least it's easier to work with private institutions. I mean, we're really looking forward to work with public universities as well, but we're creating that, and I think that has a very interesting spillover, because also once practitioners from these institutions have given lectures, etc., they know better the degrees, and they are more eager to hire people from these programs, and also that's a kind of dynamic that is positive. We are also creating a mentoring program to connect undergraduate students with these professionals to help them in matching to a little bit to understand better what would a professional career at this institution would look like. So basically, with that, I wanted to end to just say that I think the civil society can play a key role in turning this mobility, this migration, this brain drain, however you want to call it, into a real opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, Fernando. Nilo, we have a representative from the private sector. Well, you started in Spain, you are now here. Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure sharing with you all the work that we are doing. And someone, when I was outside, asked me the question, where do you live? And I think myself, and I say, in airports, probably most of the time. So I spend probably 10% of my time flying from Spain to here, and another 40% in the US, and another 50% in Spain. So I have this feedback from both parts, and it's very interesting. The first 2 or 3 days that I come back to Spain, the adaptation process in order to understand what is happening there, no? Because you can forget how the things are moving and what is the different routes that we have. But everything changed probably 2 years ago when I started this new business that I would like I need to present you what we are doing, because I think it's very important for everyone who use computers. Probably there is someone here that don't use computers or mobile phones. No, absolutely not. So here probably we stay in front of the computers more than 8 hours, and it's very interesting that something comes from the University Complutense of Madrid after of 15 years of studies that I want to share with you. So this experiment, this is an in vitro experiment that is it's important that we can have. Is probably most of the people will say what is happening with the clinical studies, but it's an interesting fact in order to see what is happening with the cells of the retina of the humans. when we put this light that we are having in front of our eyes, and we put protection. So we find that when you put protection, you can increase the survival of the cells 83%. This is related. This is an interesting discovery that comes from the University Complutense. But if we go to the next, part of the spectrum of the light that the visible light, it could be harmful for the retina. The problem with the retina is that when you have problems with the retina, is irreversible. You cannot repair the cells that you are damaging. And this is something that the American Academy of Ophthalmology says. So it's something that we know before, and there was some debate about this, but everything changed. If we put the next, because there is another two factors very interesting that are having all of us. Probably, I don't know if you have some kind of problems sleeping in the night in the last 5 years, 6 years. No? Probably you think that you are more stressed, and sometimes it's a question of light. So we're going to hear, in the next 5 years, we're going to hear a lot of things regarding the light and the eyes. Probably more in the next 5 years than the previous 25 years, because it's going to be something very important. The concept of the quality of light and how we use the light. No? So, and the other thing is that probably 90% of the users of computers have different symptoms, like headaches, problems, dry eyes, like, for example, all the itchy eyes that you can see here. All these disorders we call computer vision syndrome. Okay, this factor is related with the next. This is another important fact. What is happening with this part of the light and with the young children? No? So you can see here that we have this part here is the crystalline, the evolution of the crystalline, and how this crystalline is absorbing the light of what we will see in the next slide. That is the composition of the light of the devices. Here you can see that's the part that we were worried about before of all this. All the industry was all the medical. The ophthalmology world was worried about the ultraviolet. But this part of the light is very near of the ultraviolet, what we call blue and violet part of the light. If we see the comparison there, we see that the new devices are emitting 5 times more than the previous technology that we was using. And also, if we compare it with the reflection of a paper, you can see that is really the biggest concern about it. What is the risk that we are talking about? We are talking about risks like macular degeneration, cataract, and when we find all this, we create a company that the name is Retiker, in order to change the world of the screens. How we can change from these discoveries that come from Spain, all the industry that is probably focusing in countries like here or like US, Silicon Valley, or countries like Korea, or other countries different than we as in Spain, we are not really producers. No? And for that, we create a company here in the US that the name is Retiker Inc., that we are sharing all this information with the different actors and selling to the public these products. So I will share also with you how we organize all this talent that we have, and it's really interesting because it's very near of all this concept that we are talking about in a practical way.
Okay, thank you very much, Nilo. Diego is coming from Dartmouth University. I'm sure he has some insights of what is talent, just being as a professor in the US.
Thank you, Elvis. So basically, when I think about why is there brain drain, the most significant answer that comes to my mind is that there is an insufficient number of good jobs created in the economy, and that's what people have to live. I don't think that brain drain or the lack of good jobs, it's a new problem. I think this has been in Spain a problem for a long time. Now probably it's more acute, but in general, companies have had, I think, not all the companies, but the majority of companies have problems creating good jobs. Why is that? Well, I think it has to do with the difficulties that in general companies have to bring in new technologies and to improve their production processes. Technological knowledge is not something that you can buy in the supermarket like tomatoes. Okay, it's not a good for which there is a market, and companies, most companies, are scarce of that. That doesn't mean that the country doesn't have talent. It's a problem of misallocation. The knowledge, the technological knowledge, is not in the hands of those that need it. It's in the hands of those that have it, but these are not the ones that need it. And so, I think that's where economic policy should be directing one of its biggest. Should be one of the main objectives of economic policy. And so, my familiarity with the topic is that I've tried to study and create institutions that solve this market problem, the lack of a market for technological knowledge, in a couple of instances. One has been to study institutions that already exist in countries that try to solve this market inefficiency. So, for example, in Germany there is a great institution called Fraunhofer that was created in 1949, and that basically what it does is to bring knowledge to companies, to help companies improve their technologies by filling this market gap. And so I've had access in my research for the first time to all the contracts that Fraunhofer has signed with companies in the last 15 and 20 years. And recently I have estimated that interacting with Fraunhofer increases the sales of companies by 40% over a 3-year period, their employment by 15%, their productivity by 25%, and it has a huge impact on the share of sales from innovative products. Okay, so companies really benefit from having somebody that brings them to the technological frontier. In other instances, what I've done is to create those institutions myself by working in countries like Malaysia. So I've gone there and I've created a mechanism, a public institution that basically solves this mismatch problem, and that has helped many companies come up to the technology frontier. So just to summarize, at the end of the day, the problem is the problems that companies have in going to the frontier where they need to implement new technologies for which they really need to have skilled workers for which they create good jobs.
Okay, thank you very much, Diego. So we have I want to open with a question that I would like all of you to answer. First of all, we just saw our previous poll. Everybody here has talent. And actually, according to the statistics in Spain, Spain is one of the countries top ranked in the European Union with more graduate students. It's 40%. It's over the average of the European Union. We're over the average of something positive in the European Union, which is 34%. But then we're complaining that there's no talent. It's true. There's no talent in Spain? We have seen that everybody is talented here, and they are Spanish. So, Alberto, you have been dealing with the students. Who can tell us about it? Is there real talent in Spain or not?
Of course there's real talent in Spain, and my real problem in my job is to choose among very talented and very good professionals or students that want to go to the United States. So there's real good talent. What I think we lack, and this is not something that has appeared 2 or 3 years ago, is organizational skills. I think we need more organization. I think we have more talent than we think we have. And actually, all the people that is moving abroad, I mean the third part that Joaquin was mentioning, they are very well received in other countries, because in other countries they really acknowledge the talent that Spaniards have. What is happening in our country that probably we don't have the resources, or we don't have the ties or the tools to retain the talent that we really have. And it's probably a question of more than organization than other things. For instance, I'm really curious and interested and optimist about the creation of this new research agency that was promised by this government in functions 4 years ago, and was created, I think it was late November this year, so it's now something that is being created, but it has no resources yet, or no whatever tools or budget. But that's something that I'm really optimistic it has to work. I mean, there are only 5 countries, I think, in Europe that hasn't got a national research agency, and Spain should and need to have one, because if it's independent, that's, I mean, it needs to have one, and a good one. It needs to have an independent agency. It needs to have an agency that can place with budget in more than 1 year terms, and it needs an agency that can prioritize and work in niches. It's very interesting because Harvard Spain, one of the goals of Harvard Spain is to make connections with talent niches. That really surprised and give me a clue of the interest of associations like yours. I mean, in Spain we say café para todos. I don't think that works anymore. We need to explore niches, we need to prioritize, and that can be more easily be done with an independent agency than with the government that has to look for, basically, for votes.
Thank you. Fernando, linked to this, he's saying, Alberto has said that we have people with talent is appreciated overseas, and you are creating a network with these people. Do you actually believe that Spanish talent can be used overseas? Your experience in the World Bank, you have said that you have many Spanish people working with you, and you are seeing that they feel more appreciated here than in Spain. Is one of the reasons they can.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, of course. I mean, there might be, just to start, there might be some self-selection here when we say that there is a lot of talent here. Obviously, I'm not going to be the one saying that Spaniards don't have talent, even less so if I have a camera filming me. But also, we have to be careful about being too self-serving. I think, for example, one of the figures presented by the World Economic Forum says that Spain is one of the countries with the lowest number of people that have a second language. And I think that for an international experience is very important. So it's not only a graduate degree which gives you access to other opportunities, but also other types of skills and other networks. And I think, yes, for sure, I mean, I think it's Spain and Spanish undergraduates and professionals are very valued in international organizations. Also, for example, now a lot, I work a lot in Latin America, and I find a lot of people working in Latin America coming from Spain working in Latin America. So for sure, I think that the talent is appreciated. But I think there are some skills that we're not so good at. Language might be one, creating networks, networking is another one. And from the country perspective, I think we have been, or Spain has been better in sending people overseas, but I think connecting the people back and also recruiting and creating the spaces for people to come back, I think that's more of a challenge right now. So I don't see that much the challenge to be sending people, or that the talent is not appreciated abroad, but that it's difficult to take advantage of that talent. Probably that links to what Diego was saying about creating the conditions, the jobs, etc. I think we too often focus on fiscal incentives, but probably creating an interesting prospect, career prospect, etc. And back in Spain is much more important.
Mm-hmm. Diego.
Yeah.
No, let me go for Diego. Yeah, I will come back to you later, Nilo. Diego, I know you have been out of Spain for a long time, and your academic career has been here in the US mainly. But I'm sure you have experience with dealing with Spanish students, with American students, well, students from everywhere, I guess. And do you feel the talent here in the US is treated I mean, is search this talent in the university? Is like rewarded this talent? We have our experience in Spain. Is not that thing. It's not talent where you're looking in university as a professor, I would say. But here, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, professors are kind of entrepreneurs, basically. I mean, you are your own boss. You know, you invest in yourself. You do your own research. You take your own risks. You pay the costs, and you reap the benefits. So that's how academic life, I think. That's my vision of academic life in the US. And I have very little leeway to compare it to Spain because I left when I graduated from college and I haven't come back basically other than to go to conferences and on vacation. So, and my college experience was also quite unique because I graduated from a brand new university where they really nurture the first cohort of students, which I belonged to, because they wanted us to come here to the US. So probably my sense is that things are different in Spain, but it's just preconception. So it's not something which I've seen firsthand. So.
And Nilo, I come back to you now. So you developed a business in Spain, and the technology is a Spanish technology. Absolutely. I guess the talent is Spanish talent.
Absolutely.
And this links to another question. How does Spain invest in talent? And what I mean is, how do you feel as an entrepreneur in Spain that you have been granted the possibility to have access to talent? Is the government helping these universities? How do you feel about that?
No, it's very interesting. I can talk about my experience in this group from the University Complutense. I meet Dr. Celia Sanchez Ramos in Geneva, in one of the biggest fairs or shows of invention in the world. I was there, 15 Spanish people, probably 15 or a little more, but a few people there. No? So it's very always we need to go outside in order to find new things. But the experience there was very interesting because they have this project of preventing blindness that they started 15 years ago. And in the moment that we want to go to the market, we have 9th of September of 2013, we have the presentation to the press. What was the problem? The problem was the university during August was closed. So we need to take some part of the equipment that we need in order to make tests to her home, and then make the test there in order to be prepared for the presentation to the public. That's a little comparison with the. So talent is everywhere, but sometimes we have a little disadvantage in Spain in order to make this talent be profitable, and that is linked. That is very important for my point of view with the relationship between the university and the companies. That is two different worlds where you have a study during 5 years something, but you have very little connections with the industry and the companies. So there we need to improve a lot this part because we need to create the talent that is necessary in order to develop the companies and don't have frustration in the process. No? So I think we are a young country in terms of how we come to the industrialization and the development of the companies in Spain. So we have a lot of opportunities behind that, and we can just doing some change in that process. Probably we will have different results.
Okay, thank you. I see, Fernando. I see you are nodding. You agree with you have the Have you felt these differences between Spain and the US in terms of how they treat or facilitate talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not a professional experience, but I think, I mean, I was nodding because I completely agree that I think the connection between universities and businesses and also the public sector is quite broken. One of the things that, and I think also, I mean, the Fraunhofer Institute is I mean, it's a perfect example of that. And I think also what it strikes me in Spain, I think other countries in Europe are similar, and not in the US, is that the job market there is very siloed. So you either pursue a career in the administration or the private sector, the university. So these worlds, especially the public university, and these worlds don't talk to each other that much. And I think that is one of the areas where we need real improvement in Spain. And I see, for example, other universities, or with the experience with our network, it's been, as I was saying, that private universities are much more open to that. And I think that's great, because that opens the spaces. But also I think that, I mean, if only the private sector, again, is the one that is opening and trying to link to practitioners, to the private sector, etc., we're going to see the kind of gap that we have already seen, I think, in my view, a little bit with the administration and the other areas that also Joaquin Almunia was talking about. I think like there is a risk for the public sector to get more and more obsolete. So I completely agree with that statement. And how to break those silos, I think it's very difficult, because there are a lot of vested interests, etc. But I think that's one of the main challenges in Spain.
Alberto, you have experience with the public sector, with dealing with the Spanish government. I was trying to find how many scholarships does the Spanish government gives with a year for students to come to the US or international universities. I haven't found that much. Fulbright is one example, but then the main providers of scholarships are private or foundations, but it's not the government. Is the government, Spanish government in this case, doing enough? Is doing enough in investing in this talent development?
Well, yeah. Actually, everybody thinks that Fulbright program in Spain is funded mostly by the US government, and it's not. $8 out from every $10 come from the Spanish side. That includes Spanish central administration, regional governments, and private companies. So 80% of our budget comes from the Spanish side, and a big chunk of that is Spanish Ministry of Education and Foreign Affairs. So yeah, from the point of view of Fulbright, the Spanish government is doing great. It could do better, of course, but having in mind the crisis and what has happened in other areas, they have treated us not very bad. They have decreased our budget, and we've managed to get some monies from the private sector, and now our budget is pretty robust, even better than 3 years ago. But yeah, they help us, and I don't complain, and this is being recorded, so I don't complain. However, I'm optimistic also about universities. I mean, the situation of Spanish universities based in rankings is awful. If you look, for instance, at small universities, young universities, private universities, they're starting to make a change. And my optimistic view of that is that big universities, we have some examples with Complutense, Autónoma, big universities are going to be forced to change. And they are going to be forced to invest in specific areas if they don't want basically to disappear in the medium to long term. So I think we are starting to see a change to the positive, even in the Spanish universities.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to, as a last question before opening to all of you guys, let's try another clicker thing. I hope you loved it. So, well, this is the first one, as before. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you again. But this is something that everybody asks, wonders about. Now, why people is leaving? I would like to give your personal experience. How many of you? What are the reasons that push you to leave Spain and come here? You have different options, no? Low wages, limited employment opportunities. There's no social recognition in Spain for those high achievers. Yeah, meritocracy is not something that we deal with in Spain a lot. And, well, yeah, we miss all of the above. Okay, just stick with one anyway. We're already 30, come on, 32. We're closing. No? Well, it's not that difficult, there's no fail here. Okay, 50 people is a good number. Okay, let's see. Interesting. So, lack of meritocracy and discrimination is perceived as one of the main ones. And limited employment opportunities, that's the one that is discussed always in the media. But it's quite interesting, no? That it's not this fact of people is leaving because they don't have a job, but it's the fact that people is leaving because they don't have the opportunities, I will say, but the opportunities given to them as equals. So I would like in this moment for all of you to share your personal experience with this. Why you came here to study or for your professional career. So yeah, who wants to start? Nilo, I see you very...
Okay, it's amazing. The experience that we're having is really good because we have both sides at the same time. We come here because it's the 27% of the economy of the consumer economy is here is in the US. So this is the biggest market in the world. And if we wanted to change the world of the screens, we need to come to the main place. Also, the university have some kind of patents that are protected part of the knowledge that we are, or the products that we are selling, and that's another practical reason. But probably the most important was the relationship with the investors. We have in Spain. As Joaquin Algunias says, some venture capital, but the size of these investors are really little compared with this. And the other thing was that in Spain probably who have the power in this relationship is the people who have the money, but here in the US, the people who have the power is who have the greatest ideas. So the money is more commodity, or financial investment is more commodity than in Spain. That makes the critic mass more easy to go in a market like this. With the difficulties that are behind, also it's a very competitive market and it's very expensive to do the things here. But give us the opportunity to go forward in the process. And the other thing very interesting is the talent that is here is already also, you have very good talent in Silicon Valley that we have that is over the world. For example, we have a Chinese person in Silicon Valley that is taking care of the relationship with the manufacturers. We have different procedures here. You have more critical mass in terms of talent also.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Diego.
I came to study.
Why you came to study here? There were no options in Spain because you find this like the best option for you?
Yes, I mean, once Harvard admits you, you don't look back.
I guess that's the good option, the good answer for most of us.
No, I mean, I think in my case, I didn't think too much. I was going to study at least in economics, and I just look at the US and the UK. So.
You see, but in Spain they have like good MBAs nowadays. Spain has improved a lot in
no,
this.
In my case it was a PhD, so
it's another level of not available.
It was
in
a long
Spain.
time ago.
Fernando, what's your experience of that?
Well, I wanted to work in an international organization. Why I wanted to work in an international organization, I think one was an international experience, but I think meritocracy was one of the areas that, I was always interested in the public sector, and I think, and I even consider going into the public sector in Spain, and I think it's a great option, and I would still, I think it's an interesting career, but I thought that the meritocratic environment in an institution such as the World Bank would be very, very challenging. Also, also combined with the international dimension. So I think things with a little bit what we got. I think meritocracy and opportunities to grow professionally, I think that's a main driver. I mean, it was for me. I don't know if I managed but to keep up with the pace, but I mean, that was my driver.
Alberto, you also were talking before, you study here at Tufts University, just nearby, on the corner. Why did you decide to come here?
Well, because I wanted to improve my skills. I was here 21 years ago with my daughter of 6 months by then, and it was quite an experience. I came here with a Fulbright, and I had to leave after my Fulbright because one of the characteristics, which I don't know if it's good or bad of the Fulbright, is that you come here with a J1 visa, and that means that you have to go back to your place after you have finished your studies. So I stayed here for 1 year. I wanted to remain, but I wasn't able to, and I went back. But I really love the country, the place, and Boston. So I'm really glad that you have invited me back.
Okay, listen, we're really running out of time for this talk. Let's open the mic to all of you. Please, Alejandro. Yeah.
Hi everyone. So I would like to take the topic sort of back to, I think, concerns most of us, and I think the problem is not that talent is fleeing Spain, but whether the talent that is abroad wants to go back. And I think it's not just a matter of lack of opportunity in terms of jobs, and it is a problem too, but I think, and as the previous commenter were saying, it's a problem of the culture, or at least that's the way I see it. It's a matter of whether or not you find a job. You may find a job if you go back, but whether within that job you're able to really make a difference. Because I think the system as it is now is way too rigid, and so I think there's a lack of opportunity there to really, I think it's a matter of trust and really valuing who you are and your skills, and that you can, be a really positive influence. So let's say you find a job, but they say you have to do A, B, C, D, E. And I think most of us that are here want to do way more than that. We just don't want to be doing all that. We just want to have the freedom to be creative and think outside the box and implement new ideas, new concepts, and really make a difference, and in a way break with the establishment. And I think that's very hard to do, because as it is now, I find in the Spanish culture in general, and there are exceptions of course, it's very hard to do. So for me, this is yet again a personal experience or personal belief, or I don't want to go back, and that's the reason. I love my country, I love Spain, but I don't want to go back because for what I want to do, I really want to make an impact, and so I don't see real opportunity for me to do so in my country, and I think this is very sad. So for me, the question is, how do we change the business culture there? How do we, make them believe in us, the ones that are abroad and have all these experiences, not just from an academic perspective, but also personal, from being in contact with other people from all over the world, and just, all these baggage that we have and all these ideas, especially if we're young. How do we change that culture so they believe in us and they give us the freedom in order to make real change for our country?
Nilo,
Yeah,
you have a business
very
there.
good question.
You have a great business.
I love that question. It's really interesting. For my point of view, you have two different proposals in when you create a product or when you buy a product. One is more focused in the price, and the other is more focused in the value. When you invest in great companies that are focused in the value, you have enough resources to have a very good talent in the company, because you need to think how to create better products. In our economy, I think we have developed very good companies that are more focusing in doing the things in a way more efficient, not in the other way. And this is something that it need to change, in my point of view, in the first place, from the point of view of the consumer, how you buy the things. For example, I was yesterday having lunch with two Nobel Prizes that are helping us here in the advisory board, one of medicine and the other of physics, and is possible here in Spain. It's very, you need to take them there because we don't have that, no? So that's another interesting thing. But the question that they asked me, one of them is going to go to Madrid in June to have some conference, and he asked me, I would like to have dinner in one of the restaurants in Madrid, and it's impossible. So what the name is Diversio. So I tell him I will try to help you with my contacts, because sometimes in Spain these kind of things are possible to change the rules. But that made me think, what is the image that we are transmitting outside of our values? But this is just in that part of the market that is only food. We have absolutely we have a lot of confidence in the Spanish bellota, jamón de bellota. You will not buy from Russia, but for sure not, no, because it's you pay 100 euros per kilo in that. But we don't have critical mass in the new trend of how the world is changing. That is in the technology. And the consumers don't believe in the technology that we create in Spain, and we need to start to believe like the Koreans. The Koreans they have this big evolution in the Taiwanese, because the people buy the products that the companies that are there produce, and we have some kind of nadie es profeta en su tierra. I don't know how to say this, but sometimes probably if all the researchers that we have here with the ice comes from imagine that Tom comes from the University Complutense, comes from Harvard, all the Americans will think, oh, this is really a serious thing, but we have really problems in Spain to tell the population that the discoveries come from Spain. So we need to observe ourselves, how do we decide our buys, how we buy products, and then the things start to work in that way. So market is also is always a result of how we think. No?
Next question.
I don't know if it's answered.
Hi, thank you all for sharing your insights with us today. My first question is for Alberto. So you said that the Fulbright scholarship, people who have come to the United States and then went back, less than 10% has stayed abroad. But then you also talk about the 2-year rule that forces you to go back, actually. So how do you think that numbers will look if weren't for the obligation to go back to Spain after you finish your studies? And the second question is for the whole of you. We have seen in this very quick survey that the main reason to leave is the lack of meritocracy. Do you think this is somehow linked to generational values, and things will change when younger generations get to the decision-making positions? Well, I don't know what would happen if the J1 visa rule would disappear. My guess is that people would try to extend their stay abroad if there's a crisis in the country. But as we've seen in one of the charts, the scientists ultimately go back to Spain. Spain is not a bad country to stay. My experience, and answering a little bit your question there with the Fulbrighters that are obliged to come back to Spain, is that nowadays with the crisis they take more time to get a job or a professional opportunity, or to get their career conducted, by finally they get it, because they are very, very good and talented and high skilled people. I'm not worried at all about we or you highly talented people, because there are ways in Spain that you can take and work afterwards. I'm more worried on the segment of population that is got a university degree, but they don't have English, they don't have the skills, they are not global, those are the real problem for Spain at the moment. I don't see a problem for you guys.
So I would like to answer to your second question and to link it to the previous question and to the survey, because in my reading of the survey is that most of these answers, they reflect the same issue, which is the lack of good jobs. I mean, a job can be bad because it doesn't pay you, because you don't have it, so it doesn't exist, or because you cannot do innovative things, because the company is like, laid back and doing the same thing all the time, and they are not in the frontier, they are not doing fantastic things. And then once you don't have like this need to reward the best workers, the ones that put more effort, then there is no meritocracy, and you don't need to do the same thing that you have been doing all the time. So at the end of the day, I think all of these things are different labels that we put to the issue that good jobs are not sufficiently created. And they are not sufficiently created because companies are not sufficiently innovative, they are not sufficiently sophisticated technologically, and they don't create sufficient value. I mean, this is what Nilo was saying somehow. And so I think that's basically the idea. And then, there are like different angles from which we can see the idea. But this, to me, seems like the big elephant in the room that is causing all the troubles that we are discussing. And so the issue is how to fix it. What's the way in which we can, the market clearly is not fixing it. So there is some problem somewhere. Maybe a missing factor, which is not the case, because there is sufficient talent. I'm convinced about that too. So there must be some problems with the market, and then is when the government needs to intervene. And so the friction, in my mind, the friction that is basically making the mechanism not work, has to do with this misallocation of talent, and the fact that knowledge doesn't go to the companies. And so that's where I think needs to be, the intervention needs to happen. And we have some experiences of places where these interventions have been effective, and somehow, there's not lots of research, but the research that exists suggests that this is very original way to do innovation policy and economic policy, but one that is highly effective. So it's not the standard way. It's not, as it was mentioned before, like tax subsidies, subsidizing R&D, subsidizing the creation of certain jobs. It's not plain vanilla. It's not like the thing we have been blamelessly doing for many years, but it's something much more well crafted and where we have to take risks, but probably has higher rewards down the road.
Thank you. Any other question before? Okay, please.
I'll just. Hi, I'm Rocio, and is this not working?
No?
Yeah. I'm Rocio, I've been here for 20 years, came for 4, never went back. I've been wanting to go back every day since then. I'm a neurologist. So something that we do all the time when we get at these meetings is that we talk about what the problem is, but we're actually not talking about solutions. And Diego, you just said, I think the problem is X. I actually think there's more than one problem why we can't go back, but just taking your own idea, can you just please, each of you, you've seen what the problems are from your own perspective and what things need to be changed, just give one solution to the problem. So at least we would have it 4 and start getting some debate going.
I already presented 1 or 2, which has to do with creating these institutions that solve the misallocation of technological knowledge. And I've given 2 examples. One is Fraunhofer, which does it in a really resource-intensive way, but quite efficiently. And there is other ways to do that, which is by linking universities to companies that need technological knowledge, and so to have these central mediators between the two. And so I created such an institution in Malaysia, and it's working pretty well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, I think that one part is more for the consumers. It's a reflection of what country we want and how we can have confidence in our products and companies. And the other could be a very interesting thing is how we can regulate the investments in companies in order to have better results in fiscal or tax process. No? I don't know how is the best way, but it should be more easy to invest in companies in Spain, that we have more capacity to have evolution of these companies. So that's the other thing that I think we can improve.
So I want to say one way that this is not gonna work, and one way that I think can make it work. The first one is stay here, develop a career, and go back in Christmas. That's the best way for this to stay. The things can stay as they are. I think one important way, probably, I don't know when you came, Diego, how many people you were studying at Harvard, Spaniards. Probably, I think there is a building critical mass of students in leading universities, in leading institutions. I think, and all of us probably, we share an emotional link to Spain. So I think, first, organizing this talent, creating public opinion, building public opinion in Spain. In Spain, I think, like for example, for the World Bank, etc., not many people know what the World Bank is, what a career looks like, what kind of skills do you have. I think we have to present that to companies, to the government, etc. And also we have to, or I think there is a need to organize, to start pushing for first understanding this, what this means, what this talent means, but also the kind of reforms, institutional, legal, etc., that need to happen for this to change. I mean, this is little by little, but I don't think it's a cultural issue. I think, I mean, I don't know how many Spaniards are there in the room, but a lot. I think like the cultural explanations are the easy way out. I think it's more about institutions and incentives. I mean, you don't have incentives to go back. It's not that you have a different, I don't know, cultural aspect that prevents you from coming. It's just that you know that your specific talent, specific initiatives are not going to be rewarded. I think that's a way to change that.
Yeah, I can know that you've been a lot of time here in the States because your question is very direct. I think I've mentioned just two of them. One of them would be I really think that the creation of a national research agency that works independently from the government with its own budget and pluri-annual budgets would really help. I've also mentioned that working on prioritizing, not investing in everything, but giving a serious thought to things that we are strong in, and it's not very difficult. I mean, we are really strong in certain areas that we can prioritize and really invest there. That's nothing that we are inventing now, because Korea did the same thing, Taiwan did the same thing, and it was successful. And I'm going to tell you a third one, which is give more funds to Fulbright so we can run.
Okay, is there any other question? Okay, this is the last question. You're lucky you got it.
Hello, I'm an undergraduate at Yale, so not Harvard, so I'm an intruder. But
shut it up.
Yeah. Anyway, no. So my question is, usually when we think about talent, we think about success, and talented people need to be successful. But I also think that part of being talented is to be allowed to fail. And I think one of the key differences between the US and Spain is how we deal with failure. Society deals with failure. In the US, people are encouraged to fail, take risks. But in Spain, like if you fail once, then you're doomed. Like society doesn't accept you. So I think my question is for the entrepreneur here. Like, how do you think we can change this aspect of like encouraging failure in Spain so people can take more risks, be entrepreneurs, and have a true impact in society? And how we can change that?
It's difficult.
One solution is to change the bankruptcy law, so that would go a long way.
You know, I think that the idea of having results from the mistakes and is really a very good and very helpful in the process. No? So of learning about this change. So we need to probably to show more what we are doing and remember what is our history. No, we imagine three boats with knowing anything about where they're going, and they discover America and all the people that already come here before, and and discover and change the Spain. No? So we need to go a little bit more in our background that we can be very innovative and take the risk. No? But also the idea, I think, is not totally true. What you say in Spain, probably 4 years. But right now we are also in the process of understanding this. Is my personal opinion, because after of the crisis that we have, we realized that all of us was very wrong in the value of our properties. No, so we start to understand that is natural, and we are learning. So this is a learning process, and I think the good thing that we have in Spain is that we are young in terms of the capacity of our companies to go and create the companies right now is really one of the best moments in the history. You know? Look the case of Inditex or other cases in Spain, how fast and how well they do the things in all over the world. So that's the other thing, how we can be more optimistic of our capacities, and then we can understand all the other things behind them.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nilo. Good question. Yale died. So just we're going to finish now. If I may, a couple of sentences. I will, from all this interesting talk, what I would take is that there's actually a lot of talent in Spain, not because you say it here, but it's a fact. And there is a talent flow or talent movement. It's not a bad thing, as is shown by countries who actually have a lot, like UK, Germany, and they're ahead of us. So it's not a talent flow problem, and it's not even a cultural Spanish idiosyncrasy issue. Maybe it's an institutional problem. And we are lucky because we have a representative from the government that is going to talk in a few minutes. We'll be so happy to hear from him. Thank you very much. Thank all of you. It was a pleasure.
We will continue in 2 minutes. will go around collecting them. Could you please take a seat? Thank you. We are going to start, so I would be grateful if you could take a seat. So thank you very much to all the audience and the great panelists for the very interesting discussion. I will now hand over to Leire Larracoechea, Harvard Spain officer, who will be introducing today's keynote speaker to us. Leire is an LLM graduate from Harvard Law School, where she studied the ingredients for developing a pro bono legal practice in Spain. She is currently working at the Van Center for International Justice in New York, where she manages the center's pro bono programs, including her very own project on the creation of a Spanish clearinghouse. Before joining the center, she practiced law at the Spanish law firm Cuatro Casas. Leire, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carmen. So it is my pleasure to introduce you now to our keynote speaker, the Spanish State Secretary for Employment, Juan Pablo Riesgo Figuerola. So thank you so much for being here today, especially given the special circumstances that Spain is going through these days. Mr. Juan Pablo's CV is truly impressive, and after this brief presentation, you'll for sure join me in this appreciation. So, Mr. Riesgo joined the Ministry of Employment and Social Security in December 2011 as the Chief of Staff of the Minister for Employment, Fátima Báñez. In 2015, he was appointed State Secretary for Employment. Prior to that, he was part of the advisory team of the Grupo Parlamentario Popular in the Spanish Parliament. And on the academic side, Mr. Riesgo holds a degree in economics from the Universidad Complutense de Madrid and a master in business management by the Centro de Estudios Económicos y Comerciales. He continued his graduate studies abroad, first at the London School of Economics and at Georgetown University. He also did his executive MBA at the ESE Business School in Madrid. So this impressive professional and academic background, which includes experiences abroad, ties in very well with the topics that we are discussing today and with your keynote speech from today, which is titled Recovering Job Opportunities in Spain. So without any further delay, I leave you with the Spanish State Secretary for Employment, and I ask everyone to join me in the welcoming to Mr. Riesgo.
Good morning good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to stay here with you, because staying here, it gives me the opportunity to learn a lot. Staying here with people who really have an impressive experience like yours is really very valuable for me. So thank you very much to you. Thank you very much for the association for inviting me to stay here today. I heard, and today I have the opportunity to see with my own eyes, that the Harvard Spain Student Association is firmly committed to the gathering and coordination of interest of the Spanish community at Harvard University. Thank you very much for that and for your commitment. You do not only seek to support and assist the Spanish community at Harvard, but you go beyond and also support the establishment of connections between Harvard University and talent niches in Spain and the diffusion of the Spanish culture within the Harvard community at large. Your association thus contributes to skillfully connect supply and demand, something that is extremely important in the world of work today, while at the same time you also extend the Spanish culture. So thank you very much indeed for this endeavor. It is something that we very much welcome from the government of Spain, and that I like to underline wherever I have the opportunity to meet with the Spanish communities abroad. The Spanish government very much appreciates your work and dedication. Dear friends, we all have a role to play in making Spain a better country. Some by maintaining alive the spirit of a community as a whole, even if distance or time separates us from our country of origin. Others, like myself, at present, as State Secretary for Employment, dedicating the only thing that truly only belongs completely to myself, which is my time. Time to contribute modestly to making Spain a better country to live. A country that grows and creates jobs. Moreover, that gives opportunities to all those who look for them, especially for young people. We talk a lot about youth, but sometimes we forget that for the future to be prosperous and with dignity, they need help today. They need our help, and they need it now. This is what we have tried to do from the government, for better or worse, since December 2011. I would like to begin my intervention today in today's conference, entitled Spain's Brain Drain, trying to show what, in my point of view, has happened as regards the economic situation in Spain. In particular, the transformation undergone by the Spanish labor market these past 4 years. How the situation was when this government came into office, how it is today, and what the effects of the implemented reforms have really been. In the second part of my intervention, once we have laid out the scenario I would like to do an in-depth analysis on the core theme of this event, which is no other than to analyze how migration patterns have evolved in Spain during these years. In addition, how on top of improving job opportunities for Spaniards, we have worked from government to attract talent to Spain. So let us then first reflect on what has happened to the Spanish economy these past years. In December 2011, Spain was at the brink of an economic collapse. 9 out of 13 quarters had ended in recession. External deficit had reached 10% and maintained in deficit even in recession, and public deficit reached 11% in 2009 and closed in 2011 close to 9%. This macroeconomic imbalance, coupled with a rigid labor relations framework, ended in a real economic and social crisis. Our economy did not have enough flexible tools to avoid dismissals and consequently destroyed jobs exponentially. The consequences were dramatic. 4 million people were made redundant between 2008 and 2011. Unemployment increased by 3.5 million people. And employment fell by 2.6 million, 2 million of them of people under the age of 30. The Spanish economy had been destroying jobs for 14 consecutive quarters, and in spite of that, unemployment was still increasing at a rate of 16%, and job destruction reached a 4% year-on-year rate. At that time, Spain was losing 1,500 jobs per day. Against this background, the government decided to implement a comprehensive set of reforms on 3 main axes. The first one was restructuring and putting back on a sound footing the financial system with a financial assistance program and a supplier payment plan that propelled liquidity. Second, a fiscal and budget consolidation plan that included reforms in the fields of pensions and public administrations, and that was very much needed to retrieve stability and confidence to the Spanish economy. Last but not least, with an ambitious reform package for competitiveness. An ambitious plan that included reforms in the energy sector, in education, market unity, and of course, in the labour market. Okay, it's not working. Okay. In the specific field of employment, the government's strategy had been threefold. First of all, making labour relations more dynamic and flexible. Second, improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the active labour market policies in order to facilitate job opportunities for the unemployed and career prospects for the active population. And third, changing the national system of vocational training. We developed that strategy trying to assure that nobody was left behind. First, as regards to labour relations, we passed a labour market reform only 2 months after coming into office in February 2012. A deep and balanced reform of our labour market relations that sought to favour internal flexibility within firms and bolsters a modern collective bargaining system that favoured bargaining negotiations at firm level. A labour reform that would allow the Spanish economy to external shocks to adapt to external shocks via facilitating adjustments and modifications of labour conditions instead of resorting to layoffs. Moreover, a reform that eliminated barriers to hiring and that fostered open-ended contracts. a reform that has also set foundations for modernization of active labor market policies and of our national vocational training system, seeking more effectiveness and efficiency in the use of public resources, and bringing training to the core of our actions as it is an element that is central to our future. Spain don't want to compete in the future on low wages. We must compete in a globalized world through the talent of our workforce. When we pass these reforms, the labor reform, the active labor reform, the vocational training for employment reform, we tried to take specific and tailored measures for specific groups, those that have been the hardest hit by economic crisis. First, the unemployed, and especially the long-term unemployed, paying an annual average of 30 billion euros on unemployment benefits and adopting specific programs to help the long-term unemployed, facilitating career guidance and career orientation, in many cases coupled with activation benefits. Second, targeting the youth as they have seen a sharp and sudden decrease in their job opportunities. We passed 100 measures, specific and concrete, guided towards giving the young employment and opportunities. The 2013 Employment and Entrepreneurship Strategy included substantial reductions in social security contributions and bolstered funding for training initiatives, measures currently supplemented with the implementation of the European Youth Warranty. Dear friends, slightly over 4 years have already gone since the Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy took office in December 2011. In his inauguration speech, he argued that his main goal for his term would be to put to an end to the drastic increase of unemployment by stimulating growth, fostering job creation and quality jobs. Thanks to the enormous effort made by the Spanish society as a whole, the Spanish economy has recovered. Data show 10 consecutive quarters of continuous GDP growth. Current account surplus since the first quarter of 2013. Exports have increased their participation on GDP from 88% to 32% in 2015, and public debt has been reduced by 50%. This macroeconomic stability, together with a flexible frame of labor, institutions and relations, have brought to Spain an inclusive growth, a job-rich recovery. Regarding the labor market, thanks to the good use that enterprises and workers are making, there is now a new culture towards employment in Spain. Collective bargaining has increased. Opting out of collective agreements have saved 300,000 jobs, and workers affected by collective dismissals are reducing at an annual rate of 50%. In these past 4 years, we have moved from a situation in which we suffered the biggest increase in our history as regards to unemployment to a reduction never before experienced. This past year, approximately 525,000 new jobs were created, compared to 520 destroyed in 2011. The evolution of employment in 2015 certifies a solid and a profound change in the Spanish labor market, with one of the most positive dynamics of recent times, very different what we experienced in the last term. Economic growth is being translated completely into employment growth, and for the first time, Spain generates open-ended jobs from practically the onset on the economic recovery. We have thus moved from destroying 1,500 jobs per day in 2011 to create 1,500 jobs in 2015. Employment is reaching all sectors, regions and groups: the elderly, women and youth. Regarding all the workers and long-term unemployed workers, there are 315 more registered workers over 55 years of age compared to 2011. Long-term unemployment is decreasing at an annual rate of 15%. As regards women, 2015 has registered 128,000 more women working now compared with 2011. 1 out of 3 women that have found a job in the Eurozone last year have done so in Spain. As regards to young workers, there are 328 less job seekers compared with 2011. Spain is a country in the Eurozone where job creation for under 25 has increased more significantly in the past year, with 90,000 new jobs in that year. Sum up, dear friends, thanks to the enormous effort of the whole Spanish society, to the generous and wise decision of the worker and business representatives, and the reforms implemented by the different governments during these days, during these past 6 years, we have managed to turn the situation around. But there is still a lot to do, and I stress the word a lot, the expression a lot. We cannot rest in our laurels. First, because there are still 4.2 million people unemployed, many of them long-term unemployed. Moreover, the youth unemployment rate reaches the unacceptable rate of 46%. Second, because nothing is irreversible, and we risk going back to where we were. I hope this will not be the case, and that we are able to set a firm foothold in the process of reducing unemployment and creating more jobs, so that we can advance towards a goal of recovering 20 million jobs by 2020. More jobs, more quality jobs that make Spain the country of opportunity that retains and attracts talent, both foreign and domestic. Dear friends, this is what we have done these past 4 years, trying to leave behind the worst economic crisis that our country has experienced in recent history. A crisis that, as many of you very well know, has had a very significant impact on migration fluxes in our country. An issue, migration, mobility, which I would like to tackle in this second part of my intervention. Let's see. You're lucky, I'm not going to say anything about those. So let me first share with you some data that tries to shed some light to the darkness. We have heard many times that thousands of Spaniards have left the country every year fleeing from misery. It is not my intention to play down the complex situation that our fellow Spaniards have gone through and still go through, both in our country and abroad. I simply want to state the facts. They are very clear and irrefutable. They show, it is true, that one of the effects of the crisis has been that more Spaniards have left their country, our country. However, under no means does the data reflect the catastrophic picture some want to paint. As the data from the Spanish National Statistics Bureau shows, Spain has a negative migration balance since 2010. This meaning that from this date, more people left Spain than more people came to Spain. People from 15 to 30, there has only been 2 years with a negative balance, 2012 and 2013. And the last 2 years, show positive figures. So, the last year from which we have data for a whole year is 2014. That year, around 40,000 fellow Spaniards stopped living in Spain compared to the ones that came to live in our country. Around 30 of these were born in Spain, and around 9,000 of these were under the age of 30. It is not my intention to evaluate whether these approximately 9,000 young workers in 2014, or the around 30 that they had up to in total since 2012 are a lot or not too many. I don't neither want to evaluate the data from the database of the Spanish registered citizens living abroad. That indicates that between January 2009 and January 2016, the total number of Spanish residents abroad increased by 833,000 people. Moreover, out of these, 123,000, 15% of them, were born in Spain. I do not want to risk boring everyone in their room. My intention is just to contribute with a solid data to the discussion. The existence of a negative migration balance coincides with the onset of the economic crisis in Spain. The economic recovery pushed this balance to positive signs again. And second, the bulk of the residents living in our country are returning to their countries of origin instead of leaving their country of origin. That is what data say. No more and no less. Because if we are worried about the fact that a single fellow Spaniard does not find a job at the present or in the near future in our country, we should also be worried about the fact that Spain should be a source of attraction of international talent. And to this end, on top of the work done by government on economic reforms that I have tried to explain in the first part of my intervention, we from the Spanish Ministry of Employment and Social Security have worked via our Immigration and Immigration General Secretariat in assisting as best as we could Spaniards abroad. In addition, in fostering that if it is their will, they come back to Spain as early as possible. We have tried to help Spanish nationals abroad through several ways. First, we have created new channels for financing within the framework of a youth program and with concrete actions to achieve the following goals. Actions for social and labor integration of young people, training programs, apprenticeship schemes in firms, entrepreneurship and professional specialization that enable them to enroll in the labor market of the country in which they live, specialization programs in foreign languages in their country of residence, and programs to facilitate the return, as well as participation in entrepreneurship schemes in Spain. If we add all public tenders after 2013, between 2013 and 2015, the program has earmarked 11 million euros to a total of 322 projects, on which around 26,000 young people have benefited in 2015. Simultaneously, we have subsidized projects aiming to facilitate the return of young people. 6,555 young Spanish people living abroad have benefited from them. Moreover, we launched a new web portal on international mobility that enables young Spaniards that are considering living in Spain and establishing themselves in another country to obtain information on the requisites of traveling, lodgement, studies, business or work in their place of destination. On top of this, we have made more flexible the criteria for applying mobility agreements for young people in countries such as Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Japan, South Korea. These agreements enable labor and professional mobility of young people from these countries and from Spain in an agile and reliable administrative framework, guaranteeing their ultimate return to their country, because the participation of these youngsters in these programs is limited to only 1 year. Dear friends, truth be told, there is no doubt that we would have preferred to have avoided the crisis and facilitate opportunities to everyone that needed one in our country. But the truth is that since 2008, we have suffered the hardest and toughest economic crisis of our recent history. And as we have seen in the aforementioned data, many fellow Spaniards have decided to leave the country to look for a better training and to search for an opportunity for a better future. Our goal is to make sure that if they want to, they can return. Above all, that when they do return, they return better. Meanwhile, we will try to assist them and facilitate their return. We must transform the brain drain into the brain gain. Spain is making real progress these years of economic recovery, years in which nevertheless human capital has been affected by the crisis. This is why I am convinced that Spain will make more progress if it can count on the new skills and labor experience acquired abroad by those who left to grow. Spain will grow faster whenever those who left come. Of course, but Spain will also grow faster whenever those who never came come. Today we talk about brain drain. I prefer to talk about the circulation of talent, or even brain circulation. People that migrate look for better opportunities and have an important potential as entrepreneurs. The flow of qualified professionals and technical specialists is a consequence of the reflection of the increase in international trade. For this reason, in Spain, the past term, this meant a significant boost in qualified migration, mainly with the adoption of measures on international mobility. In this vein, we have created authorizations to facilitate entry and residence of particular economic groups of interest. These measures were based on a new conception of migration policy as an instrument of economic policy, not just social and labor policy, that boosted internationalization of our enterprises, boosting the competitiveness of our economy. We often hear many people talk about the global race towards talent. When one is in the United States, one feels how intense this race is. However, the key thing about this global competition is that it is not a zero-sum game where one country has to win and another has to lose. It is a race, actually, in which we play to our strengths. We can all be winners. It is a race, actually, in which if we play to our strengths, we can all be winners. Some days ago, we read in the Wall Street Journal that more than a half of the Americans' more highly valued startups were founded by foreigners. The OECD has already established that foreigners can boost entrepreneurship and grow both in the host country and in their country of origin. This is why I said before, I think that the expression of brain drain should be replaced by a broader concept of brain circulation. Talent that we have to look after while it is being developed, wherever this happens, and that we have to try to extract as possible to continue building a country. For this, and other reasons, the Spanish Ministry of Employment constantly supports events like these ones or others in chambers of commerce that chambers of commerce carry out, in which they look for internationalization of young entrepreneurs. Additionally, in Spain, as migration authorities are running big national campaigns to encourage foreign, highly talented and qualified people to start up a business in our country. To this end, we have made significant change in our migration system with the aim of attracting and retaining foreign talent. Its core message is simple. Spain is open to talent. Spain is open to foreign entrepreneurs. Let me share with you some data again. Since we passed the new legislation on an entrepreneurship visa in Spain, around 3,000 highly qualified professionals and 960 professors and researchers have come to Spain. American citizens are those that are benefiting the most from this entrepreneurship visa. A clear example of the brain circulation of the brain drain, a clear example of the brain circulation more than a brain drain. Modifications made to our visa system to foster the arrival of foreign talent is only a part of the global strategy. We work every day to create a business-friendly environment that reduces bureaucracy and increases productivity. We are firmly convinced of the fact that there is also a great potential to draw from the return of talent, from young Spanish entrepreneurs that have been living abroad, both those that have studied abroad and stayed, as well as those that have studied in Spain but have decided to look for opportunities elsewhere. Dear friends, I conclude. We have a great country. We know that most of the people that have left searching for an opportunity would like to return. Moreover, our goal is to make for them easy to come. Make their lives as easy as possible while they are abroad, and facilitate their return for them to come back. Spain must count on all the resources available. Although unemployment is still very high, I am convinced that very soon, between 5 and 10 years, Spain will need thousands of skilled workers. Many of them are now in Spain working, studying, or starting up their businesses. This is contributing to build a better country. And many others, like you, are doing so from abroad. I hope that eventually you can come to Spain to contribute to building a better country. A great country is waiting for you. A country with a cultural and historical legacy. A country, Spain, which is growing, that has transitioned from recession to a period of growth like no other country in the Eurozone. Spain that creates jobs, 4 out of 10 jobs, open-ended jobs created last year on the Eurozone. A country that is open to businesses as never before. Moreover, a country also that is likable, that has received 70 million tourists last year. A thankful Spain, and a Spain that is full of hope in building alongside you a better future. Spain has advanced a lot these years, but there are still so many things to improve, so many problems to solve. Improvements that can be done by you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riesgo. I think this morning's discussions pointed a harsh reality for Spain. in terms of unemployment, in terms of low salaries, in terms of well, even Joaquin Almunia mentioned that Spain is still inward-looking. These were sort of figures that actually pointed out a really hard reality for Spain. Your presentation today has offered some measures that definitely offer reasons for hope. However, we know you have outlined some policies that are being implemented to create jobs for Spain, the importance of avoiding brain drain, many different measures that again offer reasons for hope. But we'd like to ask you to develop a bit more on the key policies and measures that are actually being implemented by the ministry to encourage young students that are abroad to go back to Spain and actually apply their talent to Spain.
Okay, thanks. I think I've already said that. Of course, I can go in depth. First of all, I mean, there has to be job opportunities in Spain. So this is why I titled this conference "Recovering Job Opportunities in Spain." But I didn't know that you were going to answer what you have answered before. That you said that job opportunities were not the reason why people were not leaving or were going out from Spain. But of course, I think, although there are some other things, the job recovery is like one of the most important things that we must do in order to make people easier to come to Spain. But this is not the only thing. I think the statistics said that it was like a cultural issue. So we have to work on that, and we have also worked on. I think you mentioned the issue of the failure. We have just passed a law one year ago, which was especially directed to that issue. We changed the bankruptcy law in order to make it easier for those who have failed to begin a new business in Spain. So we are trying to improve the economy, to stabilize the economy in terms of macroeconomic, and not only macroeconomic, but also in terms of the labor market. We are trying to change the culture in this way. For instance, we are pushing young people to create their enterprises, and also, why not? We are helping those who are abroad to maintain their link between them, which is something you have to do so, and I have to say thank you to you. And if they come, we should help them to come. But there is, of course, still too much to do. And of course, I understand that there is so much to do also in terms of the policy of education and because as you well know, there are some grants, but I think there's too much to be done in this field as well. But mainly, I'm a state secretary for employment. I think my main issue is to build new opportunities, job opportunities in Spain. And now the situation in Spain, not thanks to the government, I really believe that, thanks to the Spanish society that has behaved very wisely, very seriously these 4 or even 6 last years. Now the situation has changed. So now there is a real opportunity to come to Spain.
So unfortunately, we are running out of time. Mr. Riesgo would be extremely happy to answer your questions during the lunch break. However, we would like to end with one last question, which is, we know you've pursued and completed different courses, programs abroad. We would like to know what encouraged you to actually study abroad, but above all, what actually encouraged you to go back and apply your talent in Spain. And if you were to make that decision today, would you make the same decision?
Well, thanks for the question, because it raised me a question I was thinking before, and it is regarding also the answer you gave when I was here about what was the real reason people wanted to go out from Spain and go abroad. And it is not here, but it was like low quality, low job qualities, or no job opportunities and some others. But there was not, which is, I think, one of the most important reasons that encourage people to go abroad, to have a job experience or to educate abroad, to learn something abroad, which is to have a new skill. I mean, a proper and actual modern curricula has to have an international experience. So I think one of the reasons why so many people are deciding to go abroad is because this is something good for them, and this is even something good for the country, especially if they come. So this is a very important issue we should have in mind, and this is actually answering you why I decided to go abroad to study in London and in Georgetown, because I think it's something very important. This is a proper modern curricula has to have an international experience, and I think the Spanish government should help even more those who want to go abroad to study to do so, because this is good for them and this is good for the country.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Riesgo, for this wonderful presentation. So now we have a 1 hour break for lunch. We invite everyone to join us in lunch, and I think we'll reconvene at 2:30.
Thank
you.
Thank you.